Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Convention Circuit Entertainment Spotlight. I'm your host, Scott J. Carroll. This time we're sitting down with the founder and creator of Kalbardrs Korner, Richard Harris. Richard?
Hey Scott, how are you?
Hello. I'm doing good, Richard. How are you?
Dude, I am doing well. It has been entirely too long since I've seen you and or sent you a box full of glitter.
This is true. This is true. You sent us a box full of glitter. We sent you a box full of glitter. It just has to perpetuate.
It's a thing we have to do, man. Yeah. It's how we keep in touch during a pandemic, I think. Glitter is the one way.
It is, because glitter, it doesn't leave. It never leaves.
It's
It
how
just
you
reminds you.
Yep.
So, Richard, welcome. For the people who might not know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure thing. So my name is Richard Harris. For those who sort of know me from convention circuits, you may know me by many names. Through the years, I have been Milic Aramonte, the Romani from the lands of Sereneth, or Caleb Merriweather, in the mechanic for the airship Aberrant. So currently, my current persona, if you will, is Lord Kalbardr Geiler. It's a medieval inspired persona from the Society for Creative Anachronism, which I do need to say something with that. Nothing I say today or any of my shows has anything to do with the SCA Incorporated or any of its official policies. Just throwing that out there. It's me talking, none of them.
So no legal repercussions can befall
pretty
you.
much just me. I'm a giant nerd. I'm a cosplayer. I enjoy just doing fun stuff. Generally, they're related to some sort of charity thing. Most of the things I've done throughout the years have been charity work. Most of the stuff I've done through conventions has been charity work. I've also done some stuff with organizing some conventions, which is how you and I met. So
It's true. We met through conventions. I don't even remember exactly how. And at this point, it's one of those things where that doesn't matter.
Right.
It's one of those. It's the convention family, and we talk about that every time we meet up. It's you don't see these people for months and months sometimes, and then the second you see them again, you just pick it right back up, and then throw glitter at them.
That's right. That is correct. Yeah, I think. I was trying to think back the first time I met you and specifically you and Eris, because that's you and Eris were a package at the time. There was you not see one without the other. It would have been at least 2015, 2016, somewhere in that region is when we first sort of connected. But I know it was before that that I met you the first time. But I can't actually remember when. You just always existed in my life, Scott. You're that important.
I'm one of those kind of unexplainable entities where once I'm in your life, I just have always been.
Right.
And the more you think about it, the more of a headache that you get. So it's best just not to think about it.
I agree with that, yes.
So, Richard, you mentioned that you do work with the SCA. So for those who don't know what that is, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So the SCA, or the Society for Creative Anachronism, is a medieval recreation society. Very short version, it's the Civil War reenactors, except with a medieval flair. We're geared very much towards education and less sort of the recreation of specific events. So it's a worldwide international organization. Basically, it's a bunch of giant nerds putting on goofy medieval clothes and going out on the weekends and having fun. But it's all about sort of researching and recreating the Middle Ages. What we say is how it should have been or how it could have been. So within that, one of my primary focuses is medieval gaming. I also do work on heraldry, the flags and banners and whatnot. And just because it's educational, that's sort of teaching classes is the thing I really enjoy. And it's a lot of what I focus and sort of a lot of what I've started here with Kalbardrs Korner.
So we can use that as a segue into my next question. What is Kalbardrs Korner?
It's like I host shows or something, so I sort of know how to do that, right?
Oh my goodness.
All right, so Kalbardrs Korner was a pet project of mine that I started literally actually a year ago now. It's what happens when an introvert loses his job and his hobby in the same month.
Oh.
So pandemic last year, everything hit, job went away because of the pandemic. And then, of course, our hobby shut down because we're, very contact-driven society, and everything in the world stopped. So I'm sitting in my house losing my mind for a month. And I had an event. So one of the things we do in the SCA is we host weekend events. And I was actually planning one for our local group. Would have been April of last year. It was going to be games themed. So, medieval board games and medieval gaming. And sitting here going, well, we can't do that. Clearly, it's been canceled. What am I going to do? So I organized through a Facebook group a virtual event, one of the first virtual events the SCA had done. Went off really well. It was a lot of fun. I was like, man, I could do this. So reached out to a buddy of mine and said, hey, I'm doing this thing. I want to do this sort of some sort of production. What do I do? And because this buddy of mine is a movie guy, Drew Hall, everybody knows him. Drew's an amazing guy. And would be another good guest for you there, Scott. Just throw that in there. Drew said, hey man, I've got this thing called StreamYard. You should check it out. I'm like, oh, sweet. So started with that. I was like, here's how to do YouTube stuff. I was like, oh, cool. Let's do that. And Kalbardrs Korner was born from that. So basically the premise was it was a place where I could go on, do some sort of, talk show type things, teach my classes, and just sort of get content out there to give me something to do. And I started out with a couple shows. I did a show called What You Playing Wednesdays, where it was just literally me playing a game with a guest. We'd pick a medieval game, play it through either like Roll20 or Board Game Arena, one of those kind of things. I picked up a coffee show where it was literally me having coffee on my porch, talking about those sort of shower thoughts you have about the SCA, man, why don't we fix this problem kind of stuff? Sort of the what grind your gears sort of effect. Started a series with one of the knights from out west. It's called Unpack Your Stuff, to keep it G-rated there. And it was literally just us reading a book and sort of doing a diagnostic together of our personal feelings about it and our problems with it. And since then it's grown, man. Kalbardrs Korner is my channel, sort of what I do my stuff on, and a couple other things. From that, I've also launched KK Productions, Kalbardrs Korner Productions, because it was literally people came to me and said, hey man, you're doing this awesome stuff. We need help. We want to do that too. Or I see them doing things like via Zoom and are just struggling with it. I said, excuse me, hold on. Let me show you the good way. I set them up the tools, sort of helped them get through the process, and they became part of the family. We now sponsor 11 different channels, running 17 different shows. Now some of them are weekly, some of them are monthly, some of them are just like recorded, sort of on a regular schedule. But yeah, and that's literally international. I've got stuff in multiple kingdoms and multiple countries.
So during the pandemic, you inadvertently became the head of a production house.
Yeah, pretty much, but it's completely by accident, actually. Yes.
I mean, could have done worse.
Yeah, but literally, I had 6 months to kill of no work, so I had to do something with my time, and I had the time, I had the effort. So mundanely, I'm a project manager, so it's sort of, and I mean, from doing stuff conventions with me, it's sort of event planning and project management is what I do naturally, and I also want one of the things that I really like to do is help other people succeed, right? And I know that sounds a little boastful, but it is. I like helping others do better and do more with their time. And I had a way to do a thing. Other people were struggling to do that thing. I helped. So
that mentality is something that I also, it's something we share, that mentality. Right. Because as you know, at conventions, I'll host like acting 101 shows or improv shows. And it's one of those things where if you have knowledge, if you have talent in a specific category or a skill, there's no reason to hoard that. If someone wants to know, share that. And I think that's a wonderful thing that you took this problem that was going on, you came up with something creative and you shared it with so many people. And now what was one little thing has blossomed into something big and incredible. And that is just wonderful.
It's been a lot of fun. It's something that it's been helpful, and I've gotten. And also, let me be very clear. It's not been just me. I was sort of a catalyst of a lot of things. I've had a lot of people helping me with Kalbardrs Korner stuff specifically. I've got social media folks. I've got other tech people, and then with the other shows, sort of I'm the producer or tech guy, but they have their own hosts, their own sort of people that they're running their shows. I'm just sort of either just doing the technical button pushing for them, or sort of just helping them with advice, right? So it's very much my role varies. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun just watching it grow and seeing what's developed out, right? We've had shows launch, we've had shows that have sort of been limited run series, we've had stuff that's been still going. And we've gotten so much good feedback with people just enjoying the content that because it's either gotten them closer to people they didn't know, right? Because we're doing this across the nation. I'm meeting people I never would have met, right? From other kingdoms, from other areas. So when I say kingdoms, we have our organizations grouped regionally. So the Kingdom of Meridies, the kingdom that I'm in, is like Alabama, Panhandle, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, right? That's sort of the southern-ish region. But I'm meeting people from California, from Michigan, from Canada, from Alaska, which is really funny when you try to have a guest on at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday and they're in Alaska. They get really grumpy with you for getting them about 7 o'clock. But, fortunately, a lot of people are just so cool about it when you ask them to do something, because they want to help too, and they want to talk about their thing. You said, "Hey, I heard you doing this rant about this thing. You want to come on my show and talk about it?" They're like, "Heck yeah, let's do that. That sounds amazing." They'll come have a cup of coffee with you. So
that's great. And that kind of leads into the next thing I wanted to ask you, because I know I felt this myself and you felt it. How do you feel the pandemic has actually, do you feel like it's stifled creativity, or it's forced it to blossom, or some kind of mix of both?
I definitely think a mix of both, right? So I think there's those of us of our generation have the internet and have embraced it more, are being more creative with our time, right? So I think especially the organizations like the SCA. The SCA is a very old organization. It is very antiquated in its workings, and only recently has a social media policy, which is why I made that very strong caveat about what I'm speaking from, is we had a brand new social media policy come out today. So the moving into what we call the ESCA was very weird for the organization as a whole, and for a lot of people in it. But they also made them realize that there's a lot of things we were doing during the weekends and during those times where we could do during the weeks. We have a lot of meetings. The SCA is a lot of meetings because you're doing things for, like, choosing people for new orders or sort of new awards or organizing new things that they were trying to do during the weekends while we're out there having fun, fighting and feasting and doing all those things. We could do those in Zoom on Thursdays instead of doing those, in the middle of the woods on Saturdays. So I think that kind of thing has made people realize that there's a lot of use for the internet and for these virtual platforms. So doing shows like this, right, to get content out there, to get people's thoughts out there, to sort of make connections across kingdom boundaries and across the country, has been just so useful. I did a show called What Makes a Knight. The whole premise was to talk about the things that go into being a knight in the SCA, which is our martial-based peerage, one of our martial-based peerages. That wasn't the fighting, right? Everybody sees the fighting parts of it. Nobody talks about all the other sides. It's stuff that people know about, never talked about before, because we never really had time to. So I think the pandemic made us all kind of step back and go, okay, we can't fight, we can't feast, we can't do all the sort of normal, like, big stuff we want to do. What are we doing to stay connected? And we found those things. Now, there are some people who have just went and hidden their hole, and they'll come back out in a few months when the sun shines again. There are those of us who went, no, we're going to reinvent this a little bit.
I do think there is a little hint of irony that the Society for Creative Anachronisms doesn't want to do stuff digitally.
Oh, irony. Yeah, we'll go with irony is the word. Yes. So change in the SCA is difficult, and I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. Throw glitter at it. That solves everything. So I've personally never been to an SCA event. So what is an SCA event like?
Honestly, it's not much different than conventions, right? So very similar sort of. The difference is, yes, SCA events are for the members, whereas conventions are for the public, right? But a lot of the stuff that you would see at a convention that is the sort of behind the scenes stuff, or the parties or the hanging out, right? That's what it's about. So generally, an SCA event consists of some sort of fighting tournament. There's some sort of tournament, some sort of war thing. There's generally some sort of arts and sciences competition or display. So like a science fair, like you see at a high school, except it's a weaving thing and a painting thing and a baking thing and whatever. And there's some sort of judging and scoring for that. And then there's usually a feast that night, prepared by the staff of the event. And then there's, campfires and some bardic and sort of there's a dance or a revel, and these consist of like either a day long thing or sometimes week or 2 week long things, depending on sort of the size and scope of the event. Every event's different as far as what it entails. That's the sort of generalized format: is fighting during the day, feasting and frolicking and frivolity at night, all in goofy medieval clothing.
So it's like a big outdoor convention with the framework of being set in medieval times.
Correct. There's a difference. And I want to point this out. So a lot of people think, oh, okay, you're LARPing. And yes, we are LARPing. You're correct. We are live action role playing. It's a little different than you'd see some of the LARPs like Solar or Aftermath or things like that are fantasy based, that have a storyline. The SEA doesn't have a storyline. So because we are recreating Middle Ages pieces, you're going to see, a 5th century Roman or a 9th century Roman guy and a 16th century French, knight in the same room that would never have met in period. Or you've got a Mongol standing next to a Saracen, and they're hanging out just talking, right? Who would be fighting in period, right? So you have a lot of that where there is no storyline going on. We're all just sort of hanging out. We are all minor nobles in a fictitious court that is going on for this event. What you would see, so it's very much like A Knight's Tale is the best example. If you've ever seen A Knight's Tale, that is sort of the take that and strip away the bad acting, and that's what we're doing.
Okay. First of all, sir,
I love A Knight's Tale. I'm just being honest about it. I can accept how bad it is and also love it at the same time.
One of the things that people hated about A Knight's Tale was that they were using modern music in these old settings.
Right.
And Eris actually raised a very good point. And that's that a modern audience wouldn't be able to relate to these old songs that they had no relation to.
Correct.
So they replaced them with stadium songs that a modern audience could understand. So when they're sitting there and they start, clapping along to We Will Rock You, it tells the audience, oh, it's this kind of moment.
Right.
Also, Paul Bettany and Alan Tudyk are treasures, sir. And Heath Ledger.
I will agree with you.
And
a lot of their costuming is good too. A lot of it also is terrible. So,
I'll share one more thing about my favorite moment of that movie, and then we'll move on. In one of the fight scenes where I cannot remember his name, but the actor, the big guy, after Heath Ledger wins the fight and the actor starts the cheer, he's like, "Yay!" Yeah. All of the extras, none of them spoke English,
yep.
So none of them knew the cue.
Yep.
So his little improv line of going "Yay" was their cue, and it was so good they just left it in.
Yep. There's so much. The behind the scenes of that movie actually is probably better than the movie. A lot of stuff about the making of the movie just cracks me up. But yeah, but that's A Knight's Tale is really much a good example of sort of the feel that the SEA accomplishes, that sort of the goofiness of it, but also there's some serious fighting going on. And it's a really great place with some really great people. And I love every second of it. It's why I've tried to keep that what we call the dream alive during this pandemic.
Right. And speaking of great places and great people, we also do a lot of conventions, and we've been talking about this. Every single time I see you at a con, you're always behind some kind of table.
Yep.
So what is it? What is your traditional role at a convention?
So I get really bored at conventions. I'll be honest. I actually don't like going to conventions to just be there. I make 2 laps around the thing and I'm done. Now, obviously, there's some exceptions. I'll go to shows, or I'll go see Scotty's hashtag panels. When you and Eris do panels, I enjoy those events. The conventions overall are boring to me, but it's because I'm a doer and I like sort of organizing things. And I realized that. So when I go to conventions, I'm going to do something there. So generally, you'll find me either running the thing. So I'm organizing parts of it. I've ran MobaCon for multiple years, either in gaming command or as program director, sort of a style. And if I'm not doing that, I'm usually running some sort of fan table. As I mentioned, sort of going through my litany of names there, I've moved through different fan groups throughout the years, started my own in some cases. And generally those fan tables are either to promote the organization or to raise money or awareness for some cause, depending on the day. And that's generally I'm organizing that thing. I have a theory of fan tables that a lot of people don't sort of agree to with conventions, that I'm there as a guest of the convention and I'm there to put on some sort of show, right? I don't just show up and throw some cards on a table and say, okay, cool, I've done my fan table job, right? I'm there to put on entertainment for the people coming to the convention, even though I'm just a fan group, right? So I always try to sort of step up the game to make sure there is a production. So if anybody's ever seen my the Airship Aberrant, so Airship Aberrant was a steampunk group we started here in Mobile. It was literally a nonprofit to help other nonprofits. It was just sort of it was a shell corporation that has, I have something to do some fundraising through when I went to conventions that I could sort of funnel into other nonprofits. And we literally would set up a table. We big background set up, and we'd have a prize wheel, and you donate $1 to the charity, spin the prize wheel, and you get some sort of prize. Everybody walk away with something. And we would do things like that. We do raffles, and we'd have pick a number ping pong ball kind of things. We did scavenger hunts. We've incorporated those some of our stuff into other things that people have done for some of their shows. You and Eris, I think, hid something in one of your guess what's in the box things one time of one of our things. So
we share a very similar mentality about the table, because I always like to ask every guest I have on here about what it's like to be at the table, because being at a table at a convention can either be fantastic or completely mind-numbing. It's all about how you approach it, and the idea of making someone's day when they come to the table, or at least making a memorable moment, is something that every time I see someone walk away from one of the tables where you are, is something that they do. Right. And that's something we try to do as well. You mentioned we have the mystery box where, for $1, people can roll a giant die, and whatever number it lands on, they get that many questions to guess what's in the box. And if they get it, we stand up and shout and applaud. And it's amazing to see how many people will get in on it together.
Right.
And like the raffles at your table and the other prizes and stuff you give away. What is, like, when you're at a table, do you have any funny stories or anything from being at the table? Like, walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things. I think part of being at the table is it's all about what you put into it, right? I realize I am not a celebrity. Like, I'm not the Jason Momoa of the world that they're coming to see. Nobody's going to come ask for my signature. Like, that's not happening. I'm not there for that purpose. So it's about putting on a show. It's about being that actor. And I could sit there and here's a card and hand it out, and that would be mind-numbingly boring, or I could have fun with it. And that's what I chose to do. But I think the sort of the best parts of it has always been interacting with the other fan table and the other guests, and the ridiculousness that we've gotten up to between you and me and Eris and Rob. Oh God. And getting to go to some of the panels in group in mass has always been fun, or going to the game room afterwards. Sitting around playing board games in our costuming in the middle of the thing, and we played board games with some of the Power Rangers one night because they just wanted to know what we were doing. I think some of the best con stories that involve you, Scott, is when I dropped you down an escalator. I'm pretty sure that's on a webcomic somewhere. Because it was right in, so basically, if you've been to Mobicon, the fan tables, some of the fan tables are lined up right in front of where the escalators were, and specifically Scott, Eris, and Rob were all sitting at the ones right in front of this escalator. And I had their little Scott Bunny and Aerosaurus stuffies that I carried with me, and they're still sitting on a shelf right there, actually, looking down, peering down upon me. And I think I had them tucked into my into my lanyard, just carrying them around because I was busy. And Scott fell. Scott Bunny fell out of the lanyard and went tumbling down the escalator, as he does. And of course, Rob sees this and makes a big to-do because it's Rob. So I'm sorry, the Rob Syria for those watching.
Don't forget his article. He earned
important.
that.
I watched the show. It's important. And so he made a big to-do about it, and of course, then Scott has to make a big to-do about it, and it became a thing. And that's something it's those little dumb things that make conventions memorable. Right, I could care less what guests are there. I could care less what games we play. Right, but those things like that happen that sort of become the running jokes between the con family, as you mentioned, is really what makes the cons enjoyable and makes us come back, which makes us have a good time, which makes the guests or the audience coming in have a good time.
Some of the best moments I've had at conventions are it's 3 a.m. You're just hanging out with people you've been sitting next to at tables all day. Random other people show up, and you just play a game, and everybody's having fun.
Right.
And those are the moments that at conventions you kind of live for. You always look for those, and you always make your fun. Like when at the year at Mobicon where they gave Rob, Eris, and I weapons.
I had nothing to do with that.
Sure.
That was the year I was program director. Actually, I knew it was happening and went, oh God, this is going to be funny. I didn't actually do it, but I knew it was coming and was like, that's going to be great.
Plausible deniability. I see.
Bingo.
I see how it is.
Yeah. So I returned to CoastCon one year, just meeting people, right? So we got stuck next to the Watch Your Mouth podcast. Great group out of Louisiana. That we were sort of in a little 2-block space around the corner from where you guys were, and just sort of the getting to talk to them. Didn't know these guys. I had no clue who they were, but I made lifelong friends. Like literally, I called one of them up. I had a job interview over in Louisiana a year or two later, and I was like, "Hey man, hey Dan, I'm coming over to Louisiana. You guys are nearby. Can I catch a couch for a little bit?" He, "Oh yeah, man, come on, We met these people at the convention. No clue who they were. They had no clue who we were. Like it was that they became family. And sure enough, if one of them comes through town, they know they got a spot.
That same thing happened with Jay and Irene. They'll give us a call like, "Hey, we're in town. Can we crash?" Yeah, absolutely. Right. Richard, we are almost out of time.
I see the alerts, the red lights flashing.
There is more I want to talk about, of course, which we can say for next time. In the meantime, though, where can people find Kalbardrs Korner? Where can they see your stuff? Where can they find you?
Sure thing. So Facebook.com/Kalbardrs Korner or YouTube.com/C/Kalbardrs Korner. Or you can search Kalbardrs Korner on either of those platforms. Or if you want to help KK Productions and everything we do through that channel, Patreon.com/KK Productions. We have a lot of cool rewards that we do through Patreon. I do some laser cut board games, and we have stickers available on Redbubble, also for KK Productions as well.
Stickers, so, I like stickers.
And I told Scott before the show started that I would be making him a sticker to add to that Productions later. So look for the Scott Bunny sticker later.
One day I will be a sticker. It's wonderful. Richard, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk with us. It's absolutely wonderful to see you again. I can't wait to actually see you again. In the meantime, my friend, stay safe. Keep doing what you're doing. It's absolutely wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of my guest, Richard, thank you so much. I've been your host, Scott J. Carroll, and we'll see you next time.